guys, what's up and welcome back. So yet again, you're in my bedroom. Hello there. I know I look a little weird. I'm post getting over my COVID booster, so I look a little strange. Also, I have my ring light on to give some more light to my face so I don't look so pale and tragic. Anywho, hey, what's up? My name is Liz and this is Korean Crime Time, where I'm your host, and we're in our 25 days of true crime. So if that didn't pique your interest, I don't know what will, but today we're talking about a case that is still unsolved, and I don't know if it ever will be solved. Anywho, and this is also the last stretch of the 25 days of true crime. So if you're new here, I do have a playlist called the 25 days of true crime because it is the month of December, and I'm doing a case from the 1st of December all the way to the 25th of December to celebrate the holidays with some true crime cases. It's going to be unsolved crime, solved crime, all over the place crime. Yeah, all over the place crime. So I hope you guys are interested. If you are, don't forget to hit that red subscribe button wherever it is down here. I always point in the wrong area. I don't know why. I'm just really awkward. Don't forget to turn your bell notification on to all of that when you know when I post, so you guys can stay up to date with the videos that I upload and whatever the like button does. Go ahead, like it. I don't know what it does for analytics because, you know, this is still just a really small channel. I'm not Bailey Sarian or anything, or gabulosis. Anywho, yeah, enough of my long spiel. We're going to be talking about the Texarkana Moonlight Murders today. If you don't know what that is, basically this is a span of crimes that happened between the 22nd of February of 1946 until the 3rd of May of 1946, and this is literally a case that spans between Arkansas and Texas, hence why it's called Texarkana. And there's two other names that go with this spree of crimes, which is the Phantom Killer or the Phantom Slayer, because they don't know who it is. Yeah. There was a movie that was made based off of this in 1976, which is The Town That Dreaded Sundown, which is an amazing movie and has basically been like the basis for myth and folklore for surrounding the murders for years after it has been made. Like, legit. Is a great movie. So if you've never seen it, I highly recommend you check it out. Yeah. Alright, so this span of crimes happened over a 10-week period, literally from February to May of 1946. Happened around Texarkana, which is like the twin cities at the border of Miller County, Arkansas, and Bowie County, Texas. All four attacks targeted a male-female couple at locations that were at night, on weekends, and occurred in intervals of 3 to 4 weeks. So there was a little bit of span in between each crime. So these also, I don't know why people say this, these crimes they believe is from an unspecified serial killer. Well, literally it's the Texarkana Moonlight Murders. They're all related somehow because, I mean, they're all related somehow. So our first attack happens on the 22nd of February, and this unfortunately happens around 11:45 p.m. Friday night. Jimmy Hollis, 25, and his girlfriend Mary Jean Larry, she's 19. They're parked on what is like a secluded road that is known as Lover's Lane. Well, they're there after seeing a movie together because, you know, it's date night. We just want to snuggle up with our honey, you know, be all cutesy and whatever. Well, this area was about 300 feet from the last row of city houses that was around there, and so about 10 minutes after they get there, so this is about 11:55 p.m., a man wearing a white cloth over his face like a cloth mask. Resembles kind of like a pillowcase with eye holes cut out. He appears at Jimmy's door. Well, when he appears, he also shines a flashlight in the window. So Jimmy didn't know if this was a prank or not. So what happened is he basically just said, like, he told him he had the wrong person. Well, this person responded, "I don't want to kill you, fellow, so do what I say." Both Jimmy and Mary were ordered out the driver's side door. The man had ordered Jimmy to take off his britches, literally in the words, "Take off your goddamn britches." After he complied, the man then struck him in the head twice with his pistol. So Mary would go on to say that the noise was so loud it sounded like he had been shot, that Jimmy had been shot, but it was really only his skull fracturing. That's how, like, the impact was, it was a lot for the impact on his brain. So Mary thinking that this guy just wanted to rob them, she literally like turned out his wallet and showed that there was no money. And after she did this, she was then struck with an object. So this man, or the assailant, then ordered her to stand. When she did so, he told her to run. Initially, she tried to flee towards a ditch, but he ordered her to run up to the road. Mary then spotted an old car that was parked off the side of the road, but found it empty, and again was confronted by him, who asked her why she was running. So he was kind of like playing cat and mouse with her, like a devious game of I'm planning this cat and mouse, kind of, if you think about it. So when she responded that he told her what to do, he said that she was lying, and then knocked her down and sexually assaulted her with the barrel of his gun. After the assault, Mary then fled on foot. She ran about a half a mile to a nearby house. She woke the residents and then phoned the police. So meanwhile, Jimmy had regained consciousness and alerted a passing motorist, who also called the police. And within 30 minutes, that's when the sheriff of Bowie County and 3 other officers arrived at the scene of the attack, but the assailant had already left. Mary was hospitalized overnight with a minor head cut, like in a head wound. Jimmy would be hospitalized for several days to recover from his skull fractures. So Jimmy and Mary gave conflicting stories about their attacker. Mary claimed that she could see under the mask, that he was a light-skinned African American. Well, Jimmy, his report on the attacker was different. He said it was a tanned man. He was around 30 years old, but said he couldn't distinguish what his face looked like because he had been blinded by that flashlight, because when the guy came up, he had the flashlight holding in the window, so he couldn't get a definitive of his face. So both Jimmy and Mary agreed that he was around 6 feet tall. Well, the police they just couldn't believe Mary's story. They repeatedly challenged her story and believed that she and Jimmy knew the identity of their attacker, but they were covering for him, which is all unfortunate because, I mean, you feel really bad. Jimmy had his skull fractured, and then here's Mary, she gets SA'd by a gun by their assailant. Like, nobody wants that. Nobody wants that at all. That's horrible. That's horrifying. So, obviously, that happens on the 22nd of February. We don't have another attack until March 24th, and this is the first double murder in this case. And this double murder includes Richard L. Griffin, who is 29, and then his girlfriend of 6 weeks, and her name is Polly Ann Moore, and she's 17. Well, they were found dead in Griffin's car on the morning of Sunday, March 24th of 1946 by a motorist that was just passing by. So the motorist saw the parked car on a lover's lane that was like 100 yards south of the US 67 West highway. So at first he thought they were both asleep, but Richard was found like between the front seats on his knees with his head resting like on his crossed hands, and his pockets were turned out. Well, Polly was found in the back seat, and she was found face down. There was evidence to suggest that she was placed there after being killed on a blanket outside of the car. Richard was shot twice while inside of the car. Both had been shot once in the back of the head, and both were fully clothed. A blood-soaked patch of ground was near the car, and that suggested to the cops that they had both been killed outside of the car, but then put back in. So their bodies were staged. There was congealed blood that was found on the running boards of the car, and it had flowed through the bottom of the car. So this basically would mean that they had been sitting there for a while. So they were killed, and quickly after being killed, their bodies had been moved. That way blood seepage would like make its way down, and it would just, yes, we'll leave it at that. There was also 32 caliber cartridge shell that was found, possibly shot from a weapon wrapped in a blanket. There was nothing to indicate that there was like anything in their systems when they died, and that basically there was a rumor that there was a sexual assault that had occurred, but there's no reports that back up this claim that there was a sexual assault. There's no report about it whatsoever. So our next attack wouldn't be until the 14th of April, and this is the second double murder. So this happened around 1:30 a.m. on Sunday, April 14th. This included Paul Martin, who was 17, and his girlfriend, Betty Jo Booker. So at around 1:30, Paul picks up Betty Jo from a musical performance at the VFW Club. This is at West 4th and Oak Street. So Paul's body would be found around 6:30 a.m. that same morning, because it was found laying on his left side by the northern edge of North Park Road. Blood was found on the other side of the road by a fence. He had been shot 4 times, through the nose, through the ribs, and from behind in his right hand, and he had also been shot through the neck. Betty Jo's body was found by a search party, and the search party had found her at around 11:30 a.m., almost 2 miles away from Paul's body. Now, her body was behind a tree. Her body was laying on its back. She was fully clothed. She had her right hand in the pocket of her buttoned overcoat. Again, she had been shot. She was shot twice, once through the chest and once in the face. Weapon that was used was the same one that was used in the first double homicide, which was a .32 caliber automatic Colt pistol. So Paul's car would be found about 3 miles away from Betty Jo's car, and about 1.55 miles away from his body. It was parked outside of Spring Lake Park with its keys still in it. The cops are not sure who was shot first. The sheriff and the Texas Ranger captain at the time said that the examinations of the body indicated that they both put up a terrific struggle when it came to their assailant. So They did question some of their friends. One of Paul's friends, his name is Tom Albritton. He did say that he didn't believe they had an argument the night of their murders, and that Paul literally had no enemies. There was nobody that... There was nothing. So on May 3rd would be the 5th murder. So on Friday, May 3rd, sometime before 9 p.m., Virgil Starks, he was 37, and his wife Katie, age 36, they were in their home on a 500-acre farm off of Highway 67 East, which is almost 10 miles north of Texarkana. So Virgil was sitting in his armchair while he was reading the newspaper, and he would be shot twice in the back of the head. He would be shot in the back of the head through a closed double window. So Katie was stunned by hearing the sound of broken glass. She came from the other room and she saw Virgil stand up and then slump back into his chair. She realized that he was dead. She then ran to the Wall-Craig telephone to call the police. She rang twice before being shot twice in the face from the same window. She fell but soon regained her footing. She then tried to get the pistol from the other room, but she would be blinded by her own blood. She heard the killer from the back of the house and fled out of the front door. She ran barefoot to across the street to her sister and brother-in-law's house because nobody was home. Like, when she got to her sister and brother-in-law's house, she realized that nobody was home. And because nobody was home, she then ran to her neighbor's house, and this was A.V. Prater's house, and gasps that Virgil was dead, and she just collapsed. So that same neighbor, Prater, shot a rifle into the air to summon another neighbor. This neighbor's name is Elmer Taylor. Now, Prater would send Elmer to get his car. Taylor complied, and along with Prater, the Prater family, they took Katie to the hospital, which was called the Michael Mager Hospital, but is now called the Miller County Health Unit. So Katie was questioned in the operating room by the Miller County Sheriff, and he was the head of this investigation. He ran it. It was his face. He was the top dog when it came to this case. So about 4 days later, he wanted to talk to her again, and she completely discounted a circulating rumor that Virgil had heard a car outside of their home several nights in a row and feared being killed. Apparently none of it was true at all. So they did look into multiple different attacks that involved numerous law enforcement. There was a lot of different things that was happening around the same time. There was a lot of investigators that were involved in these attacks, a lot of notable people. So after the first set of attacks, law enforcement changed quite a bit. There was steady law enforcement, but it changed out quickly. So there's a lot of wishy-washy when it comes to who actually handled this case, who took notes, stuff like that, who really handled all the evidence when it comes to this case, which seems to be a recurring thing when it comes to all of these older cases. Something is wrong, something is not quite right. Anywho, I digress. So they would question quite a few people when it comes to this case, but there's nothing that's ever completely solid. And the public's reaction to this case, literally, they were terrified. For such small areas, They were terrified of what happened. And a lot, like, they, how do I put this in the right way? How do I put this in the right way? So the Griffin Moore murders raised public concerns that were like taken in by officials, and they just said it was an isolated incident. Officials didn't publicly connect their attack to the Hollis Larry attack. Like, they didn't connect them while the Phantom Killer was active. So the Martin Booker murders alarmed the public, and they alarmed them to the fact that it's the likelihood that it is a serial predator. So with the deaths of two, like, super church-going teenagers, which is Paul Martin and Betty Jo Booker, it shocked the community. It literally rocked them. Betty Jo was a very popular high school junior, a sorority member, and she was an officer of her high school band. She, like, is a scholastic winner. She won literary prizes and musical prizes, and she's a former Little Miss Texarkana. Like, she's super well known in the area. And her high school, they ended classes early so all of her friends and all of the people that knew her could attend her funeral. Like, that's how well known she was. There was curfews that were set in stone for businesses, and this was an attempt to keep people off the streets at night. And it additionally, like, at this point, it was hypothesized that the serial killer was dubbed the Phantom Killer by the local media. Hysteria would grow, and the days following the Virgil Stark's murder in his home, there was constant media coverage. There was literally, like, increased police activity. There was so much hysteria involved around this case that people were terrified, absolutely terrified. For a week, people, like, police were literally, like, notified about prowlers that were just, like, hanging around outside of houses. And, like, one officer said that nearly all of the alarms, like, were a result of excitement or a wild imagination or hysteria. Like, previously, these neighborhoods, people left their doors unlocked. After these murders and assaults happened, everybody locked their doors. They were so alarmed that residents took precautions of security. They went to the sporting goods store. They bought guns. They bought anything to basically protect themselves and protect their families, because they were terrified of whether or not a serial killer was going to come into their house and attack them the way that it happened at the Virgils and the other assaults and murders. They were literally terrified. People were even putting out want ads for guard dogs. Like, that's how terrified they were. So, because the citizens were taking considerable action when it came to the safety of their community, Texarkana became a very dangerous place, and law enforcement would turn on their sirens, stand in their headlights, and they would announce themselves to homeowners so they wouldn't get shot. Like, that's how protected these homeowners were. They were not standing down whatsoever. Like, they were absolutely terrified. Absolutely terrified. And the fear quickly spread throughout other surrounding towns, which included Hope and Lufkin and Magnolia, and as far as Oklahoma City. Like, and this is where sales spiked for guns and axes. After 3 weeks without a murder, Texarkana's fear lessened, and the concern kind of lasted throughout the summer, but it subsided about 3 months later. So they don't really know. This is an unsolved case. They don't know who this is. And it's finally last year is when, so 2020, this is when they released 1,000 pages of FBI archive files of the Texarkana Phantom Killer. Like, they have a full handprint of this guy. A full handprint. Like, you think that if they have a handprint, they'd be able to test this. No. Man. But yeah, so that, and so that whole record you'll be able to find online if you just search the FBI archive records. It's kind of like when they release the CIA files every year of what they can unseal. It has to be a certain amount of years after a crime. But anywho, so I hope you guys enjoyed today's true crime case of the Texarkana Moonlight Murders. If you did, hit that like button. Don't forget to hit subscribe, turn your bell notification on to all, and I'll see you tomorrow for another episode of the 25 Days of True Crime. Bye.